Okay, so I decided I needed to do this video as I'm standing here looking at this particular build and just at what it looks like, and it was just like, you know what, I got to show that one, because here we go again, yet another build where you have wood construction very poorly done and failing. And so I want to just pull it apart and really show you guys what's behind the skin of these campers that, you know, they might look pretty. I'm not going to show the manufacturer of this particular build because I'm not interested in just trying to crap talk on other builders. That's not at all what I want to do. But what I do want to do is I want to point out to you guys, the people who spend money on these things, I want to point out and show you what something looks like behind the skin, what you should be paying attention to, and what's good and what's bad. So wood manufacturing, many of you guys know who watch the channel that we have been manufacturing these campers right here up here in Alaska for, this is the 54th year now. Since 1971 we've been building up here, and we've learned what works and what doesn't work. You know, we don't lay claim to have the best structure on the planet. That's just, that would be ridiculous. But we do a good job at what we're doing in the particular truck camper category that we're building in. And we get to see all the time over in the repair department, we get exposed to practices that really are not so great with other manufacturers, and then we come back over into the manufacturing side and we build those problems out to the best of our ability. And like these campers all here are waiting to go into the finishing stage. They're all manufactured, but I'm going to show you the joints of this one versus the joints on this one. So let's look at it. Right here, I've got other videos on this. I've got another one right up here that I'll link, and you guys can go and look at that. That I did a few months ago, showing another wood manufacturer completely different than this one in a small light category and what they were doing. But we were looking at the front of the camper in that one and how the cantilever up top there looks and how the front wall looks. So when I say cantilever, I'm talking about this right here. And like this camper, this big old camper, this doesn't have a cantilever either. It's broken. So let's go over to the back. So friction strength, friction strength cannot be undervalued or underestimated. Look at how all of these are stacked up. So these are doubled up, and that's a good method. Tying them together is a good method. It's really strong, but then, so you got strength there, but look at right here, where it actually joins the rest of the structure going all the way to the top. Look at all of this. There's no friction strength. If you have a tight joint that looks like this, a nice tight joint where you can't get anything in between it, then you have a lot of friction strength. And then on the other side, you have a glued panel that is glued with pressure, and it's tight against this wood. You have a lot of strength in your shear panel on the inside, right? You got good shear strength combined with good friction strength. Very important if you're going to build this way. If you're going to build with wood, then this is how it should be getting done. This right here is what has given wood structures a horrible name, is because it's poorly executed. You know, the craftsmanship is tossed out the window, and it's just a production line. That's all it is just a production line. And the people on the assembly line, maybe they care, maybe they know, maybe they don't care. I don't know. Whatever it is, who are you going to blame doesn't matter. All that matters is this is the quality that's leaving production facilities. And then wood is given a bad name. If you did this with aluminum, and many manufacturers still do this with aluminum, you think, okay, it's aluminum, it's not going to rot, it's better than wood. Well, no, it's not. There's no strength there in this joint, right? Let's look at the back wall on this other one. So over here, this back wall, right here, this is a friction joint, right? Nice and tight joint right there. But then it's also screwed. And then it gets bonded, or the paneling glued onto it. That's a very strong back wall, right? This is 3 inches wide, It doesn't have to be 3, it could be less, but it is 3 inches wide for upfitting and things like that in the future. But then, and we're going to talk about insulation in a second too. But look at this, nice tight joint. Each one of these joints is screwed like that, right? Each one of us has got screws in it to hold it together. And in this case, he wanted to get all the way over into here and tie both of these together. And so it's a much larger deck screw, right, into those joints. And that's important, guys. It's very important. So let's look at this wall again over here. So there's nothing there, okay? Then let's look over on this side. Right here, going all the way up to the top. That should be one piece carried all the way down. But it's not. It's broke right here. These are 2 different pieces of wood. This one rotted out above this one. It's not like this just broke in half. This is actually a dimensional cut, right? So that's how this thing was assembled. And then look at this. These joints all coming in here, none of them actually have any kind of strength to them, right? None of them do. They have nothing that held them together. And so these things, they rip themselves apart because of all that movement that's allowed in the structure. It rips itself apart. And then on the corners, it fails in the corners because of all that movement, right? And then you have what we call a butt joint, where this comes over and butts to this one. Look at how much space there is there. Then the only thing that is getting relied on to seal this is a rail over the corner screwed in with, hopefully this little sealant line is going to do it. No, because there's bad friction joints all over this thing, the thing moves and tweaks and breaks itself apart right here at the corners. All of these pull themselves apart, and then the thing is just, the fate of the unit is sealed before it left the production facility. That's just how it is. But over here, and I have videos on this, guys. You can go and look at the skinning process over on the channel. This right here is a bent piece in the brake, and just where my thumb is, and then my hand, this piece goes on like that, right? And then it gets a layer of sealant, and then the side sheet comes over top of that, so it's now a lapped corner. And then on top of that, you put your mobilastic rubber around the corner, and then you put your rail on that. So it looks like this. I'm going to draw it. You have your camper sitting like this, right? And then you have your metal that sits here. And then you have your sealant that sits here, your putty tape. And then you have your metal again. It comes over and it sits right here. And then you have putty tape that wraps this entire corner. And then on top of that, you have a rail that gets screwed on. And then your fastener sandwiches all of this, right? That's how that works. And then this gets installed into the corner, this rail, so it pushes. Then you let this putty tape ooze out for a day or two, something like that. And then you trim all this off and you put a bead of sealant here and a bead of sealant here. Whereas the other manufacturers have a butt corner like this, and then you have a little bit of sealant put on, no putty tape, have a little bit of sealant, some putty tape on this side, and then the leg of the rail and the screw goes here. And so what's going to happen with all those bad friction joints? It's going to break right there. Just crazy, guys. That's how these things are built. Okay? So when you're looking and you're shopping and you're really digging in and you're gonna buy something or spend your money on something, or if you're gonna build something, right? If you're out there building something for yourself, you need to be building like this, not this. And it's not a wood versus aluminum, it's a what methods is the production facility using. Now let's look at insulation. Look in there, right? This is all cut out for weight. All of it's cut out. And so you have a shower stall right behind that. You have this right here. Look, I can do this with my hand. That thing's moving, right? So there's a tremendous amount of movement there, and there's no shear strength on that back wall. Zero. No shear strength, except in the sheet material on the face. And then it is just put on with this. So in these couple of spots where you can see it actually took right there, little hot spot. It took a little bit on that one. right? It took on this one pretty good. Didn't take over here. So you have no shear strength. There's just a couple of spots where that material bit and it was okay. So just crazy, okay? Just crazy. Crazy stuff. Now look at the side here. Look at that, completely missed. Missed by a mile. And then the rest of it, that's just put together, right? That didn't grow, that didn't expand and push apart. It just was assembled that way. That's how that was built, with that much space. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Now the insulation value, this was the old way of doing insulation, and that's okay. We used to use this kind of insulation as well, but you all change as manufacturers, right? But and products come out. This is the insulation we use. The back wall, as you can see, is 1.5 inches, but this is all fit in extremely tight. Look at that. Look at that. You got a little bit of gapping here, but it's hard. It is an illusion on the camera sometimes. This is all tight. It would be very hard for me to get this piece out, right? Everything's tight fit. All of your foam's tight fit. And then because you're using structural foam and it's tight fit, you're picking up structure from that as well, even though it's loose fit into that cavity. And then the roof is the same solid. That's all a SIP up there. Anyway, so guys, that's what's behind the skin on your campers. That was important to look at and just understand. I gotta show you one more thing. I'm trying not to show the manufacturer here. Look at that broken line on the ceiling. That's broke. Boom. That roof line snapped. You can see that it snapped right there. That's just crazy. Anyway, cheers, guys. I hope that one was helpful for you. There's a right and a wrong way to do stuff.